I still think that it's somewhere up here, so I'm going to move to a second contact. There's enough to think that it is phase one, and it is the occiput, maybe it's moving around. Let's see how that is. And so that did it. Now, it's not like opening up a combination lock, where those two one challenge opened up the possibility for the second. Seems like. Maybe a challenge actually is more than a challenge sometimes. We all talked about that sometimes a challenge can clear the whole stage, but sometimes maybe it's an intermediary as well, that we do the challenge, it has a partial result, but it leads us to the next challenge, which gives us the complete result. And the radiation stayed there, so I'll do. So with stage one of the occiput, you've got the possibility of all the lateral, like lateral to medial spectrum, but then you've also got these three zones moving up from the occiput, like a second zone and a third zone, which is like higher up here. Maybe you could do like, I don't know, maybe it would be like a thumb spread between. If I was teaching in Italy, somebody would raise their hand right there and say, is that your thumb or their thumb? So, because they ask a lot of questions like that. And I would say that probably would answer their thumb. Good. So, now, is it complete or not? You know, it's the short leg is longer now, and there seems to be a little bit of residual force in adduction. So as soon as there's an adduction problem, I'm always thinking what? Stage 4? But as I mentioned the last time, you know, adduction can be actually related to any stage. It tends to be most powerfully influenced by stage 4, but a lot of times you get the resistance to adduction, clear stage 1, and also adduction's better. Now, it's interesting for me that, well, let's see. The radiation's coming out kind of lateral here, so that also would lead you to think about what? Stage 2. Or a very lateral stage 1. So, I'm just going to read.
I have a question about the leg length. We talked a lot about the difficult adduction. What does difficult dorsiflexion indicate? Anything relevant to central channel work?
I found the difficult dorsiflexion. This is going to sound a little odd, but what's the name of that muscle?
The pterygoids.
Pterygoids. I found that it's related to that. When I release that muscle, that softens. Okay, so equal legs, but it has like this force that's like kind of difficult adduction, like kind of, it's not like, it's, you know, I guess it's difficult, but there's a better word for the force that I'm feeling in there. But, resistant, I would say, resistant adduction. So, since it's equal legs, it's been staying equal, it seems like it's stage 4. Now how can I, if I want to challenge this, I can. Because the challenge may not change the equal legs, but it may oftentimes make the adduction softer. And so I use that. Come to the C2. See, and there it is. It's really soft. And then also said that sometimes when the adduction softens from the challenge on equal legs, now there's a short leg. So that's what the is being masked there. Difficult adduction is that there's this, it's kind of compensating, making it look equal. Well, I'm going to do this even though. So the first challenge was in that second zone up, so in the middle. But then when I went to check, it wasn't complete, but I still was drawn back there and the radiation was still at the occiput. But then it was actually on the occipital ridge where I challenged the second time, and a little bit more lateral, and that was a pretty good contact. After waiting, the legs remained equal, and so if the legs are equal, what do we know, usually?
It's not stages 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah. Could be 4, 5A or B, or 6, or something else. But it's not crossover 1, 2, or 3. So for me, that's just as interesting of an adjustment as when you get the release of the adduction problem. Now, also with the dorsiflexion, you may get a release of that from any of the stages as well. But sometimes, when you get a person, and this could also be the difficult adduction, or the dorsiflexion, mechanically, their body can do it. So something's holding from here.
Yes, because when she's in supine, it's when she's prone, it's like...
Yeah. Supine is okay.
Yeah.
Huh?
Or it's not, I wouldn't say it's okay, but it's less resistant.
Yeah, there's interesting connections between some of the cranial bones and membranes with structure of the body, the phases of the central channel.
Well, and she was hit by a truck when she was younger, and she had her left side of her pelvis crushed. So.
Oh.
I have some interesting
So this keeps, like now, the leg length is just getting softer. And a lot of times when the pterygoids are tight, like what is this one with them?
The lateral pterygoid?
No, I mean on the outside. The masseter, right? There's jaw clenching in both situations, and jaw clenching is there's usually associated with anger, inability to express, so all that's in there. So if you go in and you soften either one or both sides, sometimes it actually is both sides need to release, and a lot of times they'll let go of this.
So you do that zygomatic release, does that help that inside?
I mean, all of them can be connected, but the muscle inside is the pterygoid. Is that right?
It's in
That
the
real
peanut butter
tight-
spot.
Where they put the needle when they give you Novocaine.
Okay.
Which
I'll have to
also
look
could
at
be
my
part of the reason
attachments
it's like that.
again. Maybe too much downward.
I don't know if you remember the first time you saw that coming. Awful. Fortunately, you always know you're going to get ice cream afterwards, so you think, okay, I'll put up with it. I would do stage 6 here, and I would do an adjustment of 6.
Maybe that's why I don't like ice cream.
be interesting to run your finger along the occiput and then run it along those second and third zone that we're talking about in the occiput to see if you can notice like the critical point sensation, place where there's tightness in the fibers, attachment fibers. In my practice, I use just mostly where's the radiation, challenge it. If I get that good softening release, then that's where I make my contact. But just for clarification to develop, sometimes it can be interesting to go in where the radiation is and kind of palpate the fibers like that. It's kind of like the telephone book exercise we did a long time ago, just feeling for the hair under the pages. The other thing is the gluteus, right? That's the next contact. And we talked about the sacral notch, and that was our target location. But just like what we're learning out here up at the occiput, there's a pretty good range that you can move out from that sacral notch. And I found that sometimes if there's it can be all around like this, even like right behind the hip joint. But sometimes all the way up here at the ASIS area. So you're really like the anterior. And so the stage 1 contact can be all the way up here. And I found that sometimes when you've got that really strong, difficult short leg, where you're probably thinking, well, maybe it's a true short leg, but the challenge in the contact may be in this area or something that's off of the sacral notch, something that's a little bit more extreme off the sacral notch.
Are you feeling radiation there, or you just that might be?
Usually there's radiation. I feel that like in this area. I'll go in and make a challenge and then check to see. More or less, that's how you find these things, every time. It's like allowing yourself, and again, and I'm going to say this lots of times, I don't recommend trying a lot of things that you're not sure of or you don't know about during treatments. Your starting point is, you stay with what you know, but occasionally, there's an opportunity to try something else. And this is one of them. So a lot of radiation here can make your sweep. And let's see how that goes. And you can apply that also with the double contact. Now with the double contact, we can have what we talked about. Well, there's 2 different kinds of double contact, and we can use them at different times. One is a stage 3 contact, a stage 1 contact.